understand what Rahu will do in that house where he sits. So Rahu, now when it comes to 9th house, now 9th house is an exception. Exception means Rahu can be a bit difficult in the 9th house. Why do I say this? Not because he is bad for the 9th house, but the 9th house requires you to follow certain rules, regulations and restrictions, some prescriptions and some prohibitions. So in that house, if Rahu is there, you might get a higher temptation. So in that case, you could say indirectly, Rahu may not be that great in the 9th house, but that does not mean in any way that he will keep you away from things related to the 9th house. It is better to have a Rahu in the 9th than to have a Jupiter in the 8th. Should I repeat? It is billions and trillions of times better to have a planet, even if it is Rahu, in the 9th, than to have a so-called great benefic like Jupiter Venus in the 8th. There is like millions of times, it is millions of times better. Why? Because a planet always gives results of the houses which it rules and the house where it sits, okay? So therefore, if Rahu is in the 9th, and of course I have many videos on Rahu and Ketu. Rahu Ketu's results are very different. Rahu Ketu gives results of dispositors, the planets which aspect them also, not who they aspect, who aspect them. So suppose you have Rahu in the 9th and Venus sits in the 3rd and aspects Rahu, then Rahu will also give results of Venus, okay? So for example, if you are a Capricorn Lagna, then Venus lords the 5th and the 10th. So Rahu will give results of the 3rd, 5th and 10th along with the 9th house where he is sitting in the Bhav chart. Placements of Rahu should be taken from the Bhav chart, okay? And he also gives results of planets with whom he is conjunct, okay? So Rahu gives results of his own placement from the Bhav chart, aspects and conjunctions from the Lagna chart, okay? So this is something which you need to take care. And of course, the dispositor also, wherever the dispositor of Rahu is sitting in the Bhav chart, he will give results of that house also, okay? So for example, in this case, if you are a Capricorn Lagna, so Rahu will be in Virgo in the 9th house, and if Mercury is in the 2nd, so Rahu will also give results of the 2nd house and the 6th house. Why? Because Mercury also lords the 6th house, do not forget, okay? That is something which I need to say. So now, if Rahu is in a particular house, and you see all these, aspects and conjunctions and the dispositor is in some other place, so he will give results of this. And if you're confused, then I'll put a video here at the end. You can watch them, okay? That will give you more understanding of how to judge Rahu and Ketu. But you have to understand that when it comes to giving means when you get something in life, you say, oh, this planet gave me a lot of good things. That means the houses which are indicated regarding that event, that these houses have to be there in the horoscope related with that planet. So for example, if you talk of marriage, then the 2nd, 7th and 11th, these 3 houses have to be linked actually. Only then you can claim that, okay, I got married. So then if Rahu Dasha gives you marriage in a situation where Rahu is linked with these houses, then you can say that, all right, I got married, but it can happen in a very unusual, unconventional way, okay? You might get married to a foreigner if the 9th or the 12th house is linked, because that shows long distance travels. Or you might have an inter-caste marriage, or inter-religious marriage. So that can happen. Now, if the 5th house is linked, it could be a love affair which converts to marriage, the typical love marriage scenario in India. Or if the 2nd house and the 4th house and the 9th house is linked, then it could be an arranged marriage, as it happens in India. So that's how you know that when Rahu gives. Or now suppose Rahu is linked with the Dusthanas, then he can give you very shocking incidences, like if the 7th house and the 8th house and the 12th house and the 6th house, these are somehow linked, then it can happen. Now see, Rahu is the Karaka for cheating, but Rahu will see, cheating means, what does it mean when you say I have been cheated? Essentially the 6th house is activated, because 6th house is the breakage of the marriage. So cheating is primarily from the 6th house, and then Rahu adds with it, because Rahu is the natural Karaka for cheating, okay? So therefore, if you have Rahu in the 7th house in the Bhav chart, you should never think that your spouse will cheat on you or you will cheat on the spouse. Never, ever, ever, okay? I mean, that's not necessary, but many times what happens, people only see the Lagna chart. They have Rahu in the 7th, but in the Bhav chart it's in the 6th. So that is why they have this misconception that Rahu in the 7th gives you a cheating spouse or you cheat on the spouse. Okay, but always check the placement of Rahu from the Bhav chart. Okay, so now if the 6th house is somehow linked with Rahu, then it can happen that you might be cheated. You go somewhere and then you come home, you see, your spouse is with somebody else. That can happen, right? But to blindly say that Rahu, and let's talk of money or promotions. If Rahu is linked to the 10th and the 11th, it can give massive things actually. Okay, but similarly, if it is linked with the 8th and the 12th, it can give you massive downs also. So therefore, just blindly, if you say that, oh, Rahu Dasha started, I will get things which no planet has given, or, Rahu Dasha started, Rahu will take everything from me which nobody has taken. That seems a bit unreasonable and unrealistic to me at least, all right? And I have seen that it doesn't work because Rahu gives results of these houses with whom he is linked with. Okay, so therefore, you should first analyze, forget about the karakatva of the planet, which means forget about the nature of the planet. Treat every planet as the same. Okay, primarily the results come from the houses. Never, never, never anything apart from the houses. Okay, so if you see these good houses are indicated. So for example, marriage, the 2nd, 5th, 7th, 9th and 11th, these are great houses which sustain marriage. That's indicated, then you will have a great marriage. If the 2nd, 6th, 10th and 11th are linked, then it will give you gains in career. If the 3rd house and the 11th house is linked, it will give you gains in journalism, in YouTube, social media, all this. Okay. If the 5th house is linked, the 8th house or the 12th house, it will give you love relationships, affairs, physical relations, premarital relations, illicit sex, and all this. And there are thousands of things which you can study regarding this. Okay, but the thing is, then once you know the houses which Rahu indicates, then you try to see, are there any similarities between these houses and the natural karakatwas for Rahu. Like I said, 6th house is the house of break of marriage, and Rahu is the karaka for cheating. So if Rahu is linked to the 6th house and then your marriage breaks, then you can say, oh, Rahu Dasha, my spouse cheated on me, or maybe I cheated on my spouse. All right, that you could say. But and also for cheating or all these things, many other things have to be seen. Okay, you just cannot say, because I know many of you have Rahu in the 6th house or maybe in the 5th house of your Bhav chart. You don't know. You only see the Lagna chart. Okay, so then you will say, oh, I have Rahu in 6th. My spouse did not cheat on me. Okay, so as I said, even if it is there in the 6th house of your Bhav chart, there are many other placements which you need to check. Okay, so therefore, don't make a blind judgment, a blanket statement like this that Rahu can take away anything or he can give me anything. All right, that is not true. Right, it depends on the houses for that particular event. Okay, so for example, people say Rahu in the 10th is great, but 10th house can give you divorce because it's not a great house for marriage. So now it depends. You are asking for marriage or for career. If you're asking for career, it can be great. If you're asking for marriage, disaster at hand, right? So therefore it depends. So now you may say, oh, I got $1 million, in Rahu in Dasha in the 10th, but then maybe your marriage suffered. So then how do you say, was that even good for you or was that even bad for you? So it depends